dependent origination, Paticcasamuppada, number 15. Jara Pichya Jati Paramana Sokha Paridewa Dukkha Domanasa Upayasa Sambhavanti. Because of rebirth as condition, there arises aging and death. And there arises sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So this is the 11th link of dependent origination, and it is presented in this way. In this way is rebirth, old age, and death, different from the resultants of the present life. If you remember, there are 5 of them in present life. It is different presentation from the resultants of the present life. And the purpose is to cover all 31 planes of existence. I recited in Pali. In Pali, aging and death, okay, these 2 words, aging and death, is paired as one compound word, presented as one word, aging and death. And the other 5, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair, is joined as another compound word. That's how it is presented in Pali. So in this link, the conditioned factor, or the result of rebirth, has 2 parts. Why? What's the reason? The first part, aging and death, is common to all 31 planes of existence. And the second part, 5 more consequences of rebirth. I'll repeat again. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. Despair is anguish produced by excessive mental pain. And these 5 are incidental consequences of rebirth, and only belongs to the 11 planes of sense realm. 11 sense realm, 4 woeful planes, human, and 6 deva realms. They are called 11 sense realm. It only belongs to those 11 planes. But the 20 Brahma realms, material and non-material Brahma realms, Brahmas who are in those planes do not experience these consequences. Do not experience these consequences. That's why the Buddha put 2 parts in this 11 link as far as the consequences or results are concerned. Now, rebirth is the cause, and we have discussed rebirth at the 10th link. Actually, it's the Upapati Bhava or Jati rebirth. It refers to the rebirth in the 31 planes of existence. 9 different types of kinds of rebirth. We have discussed that in detail. So we don't need to repeat about rebirth. Rebirth is the cause or conditioning factor. And the result is, the first word is jara. What is jara? Jara means aging or decay. Once a being is born, as soon as the being is born, it is subjected to aging process. There's no exception. Whoever, whatever, as long as a being is born in this 31 planes of existence, automatically subjected to this aging process or jara. All conditioned phenomena. What are the conditioned phenomena? The mind and matter. Mind and matter is a conditioned phenomena. Go through 3 modes of time or characteristics. 3 modes of time or 3 modes of characteristics. In Pali, it's called Sinkata Lakhana. We have talked in length with regard to this Sinkata Lakhana, 3 modes of time, in the past lecture, one of the past lectures. So, what are these 3 modes of time? It's the arising mode, prolonging mode, and disappearing mode. That's a 3 mode of time. Time actually is defined by the lifespans of an object, lifespan of an object, arising, prolonging, and disappearing. In Pali, it's called T bin. U is arising, T is prolonging period, bin is disappearing period. Only when there's an object or a situation or a condition, time is defined. Without it, there is no such thing as time. It's our own illusion. So, this jara, aging or decay, belongs to that, the middle mode of time, the prolonging mode. The middle one, prolonging mode, belongs to jara, aging and decay. Now we know what jara is, and there are 2 kinds of jara, aging. Okay. The first one is called apakata. Apakata jara. This first kind is not visible to our naked eyes, but we can only see it through our mind. Apakata jara. Invisible to our naked eyes, can see only through our mind eye. The second kind of jara, the second kind of aging is called pakata jara. And this is the visible aging. Visible aging or changing signs with time. Changing signs with time of an object. In fact, it is the consequences of aging. Consequences of aging that you can see through your eyes. Changing signs, visible signs of aging. That's the second type. So the first one is invisible to our eyes. Second one is visible to our eyes, but actually it is not aging, but it is the signs of aging. Manifestation of aging. That's the second kind. And for us, if we observe ourselves, it is more obvious. What are these changing signs of time? As for a human, loss of youth. You're born, you're young, and slowly you begin to lose the look of youthfulness. And also the loss of physical strength. And also the loss of mental strength. These are the signs of aging. And also the loss of pleasantness. Slowly you begin to lose the sensitivity of your eyes, sight, sensitivity of hearing, smelling, tasting, touch. That's called losing the pleasantness or sensitivity of these 5 physical senses. And also the mental, of course, weakness of mind. That means sensitivity of minds begin to lose. And another sign is quite common. You got very old. It's called dotard. Dotard is an old person starting to behave like a child. That's dotard. Those are the signs of aging, the visible aging, bhagata jara. So, that is jara, aging or decay, and there are 2 kinds, visible and invisible. The next word is marana, jara maranama. So, marana is death. It means death. And again, there are 2 kinds of death. The first one belongs to the third and final mode of time. If you remember that, uti being, arising mode, prolonging mode, and disappearing mode. It is the disappearing mode, the third mode, the final mode of time. So this is the disappearing or dissolution of conditioned phenomenon. What is conditioned phenomenon? Nama and rupa, mind and matter. Okay. The moment that they dissolve or disappear, that is called death. Okay. Let's see a consciousness. Just to make it a little more distinct, seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, the moment of seeing, the moment of hearing. That's a consciousness. A consciousness arises, and then it exists, and then it disappears. Instantly, whenever a consciousness becomes, or arise. It exists and it disappears. 3 modes of time, Sinkata Lakkhana. That's what a consciousness is. That's what an object is. Consciousness is object. Physical matters are objects. So, a consciousness arises, exists and disappears. Uti bin. At the speed of many billions of a second. We just talk about as if arises, prolonged period and disappearing period. Seems like quite a lot of time. But actually, those 3 modes last many billions of a second. Many billion of a second. That's all it lasts, a consciousness. In other words, what is consciousness? Consciousness is us. In other words, we come into existence, or you can call it birth, and die. Many billions of time per second. We are becoming and dying, becoming and dying many billions of time. It happened many billions of time in 1 second. That is what is really happening to us. We are dying and dying and dying and dying and dying. In 1 second. That's the first kind of death. And this is the cycle of infinite numbers of birth and death. Just in 1 second, imagine how many cycles of birth and death go on through, many billions. In Pali, that is sansara, cycle of infinite numbers of birth and death. Just in 1 second, billions of times. Imagine how many is in an hour or a day or a year or in a lifetime. We've been dying so many times. But this process, birth and death, dying billions and billions of time in a second, this process is invisible to our naked eyes, invisible even to the science that we possess at this time. As it is so subtle, okay, we are ignorant about the true nature of this birth and death on a conscience, a consciousness level, one consciousness at a time level. We are totally ignorant about it because it is so subtle and it's not visible to our eyes, and even we can't even detect with the modern science. So, we are not afraid or scared of this kind of death, period. How can you be afraid of a death that you don't know it is happening to you? So that's the first kind of death. The second kind of death. The second kind of death is the obvious, conventional death, death that we know. Oh, somebody died, so and so died, passed away. I went there, or I read it in the obituary. That's a conventional death. The end of one's life. The end of one existence of a person. That's a conventional death. And all of us, we are afraid of it, we are scared of it. To put it in a more on a Dhamma way, it is the disappearance of the five aggregates, Pincha Khanda. The body, the form, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Those are the five aggregates. So, disappearance of these five aggregates is death. And these five aggregates, they are conditioned by volitional activities of the past life. Past life, we did a lot of volitional activities. That's a cause. And these five aggregates are the result in this life. The whole thing, of course. Five in terms of five aggregates. But precisely, the resultants are the five results then. If you remember, they are relinking consciousness, mind and matter, six sense bases, mental contact, and feeling. These are the vipaka, resultant of the volitional activities of past life. Five aggregate is a different presentation. So disappearance of these five aggregates is death. And these five aggregates are conditioned by the volitional activities of past life. And this death, marana, this death is bound to happen because we have rebirth. If you have a rebirth, there is death. If there is death, you can make sure there is rebirth ahead of it. So now we have these five aggregates and we do all sort of things. Okay? In this life, we did all sort of wholesome and unwholesome things, unwholesome and unwholesome action, kusala and akusala. Or you can call it life actions. We did all sort of things, simply put. And these actions again become the cause of rebirth in the next life. That's how it is going. Past life we do the volitional activities, we do actions. And this life we got the resultant or passive sides of life. And then based on that we do all sort of actions again in this life, and then next life we are reborn again. As long as there's a rebirth, there will be death. And so on. It goes on and on and on and on. And in the next life, I will put in a different way. In the next life, after after rebirth, aging and death, jara, marana, are inevitable because of rebirth. It's just simply showing the endless cycle, how it is driven, birth and death, in a conventional way. But we all know whatever is presented in a conventional way or a big picture is exactly the same that is happening at a moment in time to an object. And whatever is happening to a moment in time to an object, it's exactly the same what is happening in the big picture. You just change the scale, spread the time. The other one was billions of a second. This one is for a human being, if you live long enough, maybe 70, 80, 90, 100. But the principle's the same. Even though we are so scared of the conventional death, we are very scared of the conventional death. In reality, the last consciousness of this life, the last consciousness, a consciousness, you can call it the last one is called death consciousness. The last consciousness, that consciousness of this life, when it passes away, immediately, another consciousness in the next life arises. Because it's the first one, we call it Patijanti Jeta, or relinking consciousness. There's a death consciousness of this life passed away, and the relinking consciousness of next life immediately, without any space in between, without any moment in between, arises. It is exactly as what is happening in our life. One consciousness passed away, seeing consciousness passed away. That means you are hearing something. There's a seeing consciousness. And under a certain set of condition, the next one is hearing consciousness. When you are in a state of hearing consciousness, seeing consciousness is gone. Actually, that is the death of the seeing consciousness and arising of the hearing consciousness. Immediate, right away. One is the cause, one is the effect. Disappearance of seeing consciousness is the cause. Arising of hearing consciousness is the effect. In this life, just look at it, listen to it, and look something. How fast? And there it goes. That is how it is. But we think, as we don't really see as death, we are not afraid of it. But there's no difference in that the last death consciousness and the next relinking consciousness. It operates in the same principle, in the same manner, in the same mode, in the same, so to speak, period of time. Nothing changes. But our perception is different for the conventional death. That's why we are so scared. But know the fact, that's no difference than every waking moment of your life and that conventional death moment. They are exactly the same. That is why it is very important to experience the arising and passing away of different kind of consciousness in your present life, in this present moment. It's very important to observe that. One consciousness arises, another consciousness passed away, arise and passed away, arise and is passed away. It's very important to observe these arising and passing away of different kind of consciousness in this very life, in this very moment, with full foundation of mindfulness. That's the reason one of the reasons we are practicing full foundation of mindfulness. We know, or at least we experience the rapid arising and passing away, rapid birth and death of mind and matter in this very moment. And when you start experiencing these things, that experience projected to the moment of that consciousness and relinking consciousness. With the experience of the mindfulness about consciousness, at that moment we are not scared anymore. That's one of the results of the practice. If we are not scared of the moment of the conventional death, your mind is not perplexed. Your mind is not confused. Your mind is clear. In that way, if you are not fully enlightened yet, you can go for sure to the another appropriate existence, better existence, so to speak, to practice, to carry on with the Buddha Dhamma. Otherwise, confusion and perplexity can block you. Without confusion and perplexity, these understandings carry on. Full foundation of mindfulness. So, rebirth and death, or arising and disappearing principle. Okay. We should know this rebirth and death, or arising and disappearing principle, not only applies to consciousness, Dhamma only. It also applies to rupa, materiality. To put it in a different way, this principle applies not only to animate, but also to inanimate things. Animate and inanimate, both mind and matter. Anything that has a beginning, or you can say birth, beginning or a birth, has an ending or death. Anything with a beginning, there will be an end. Anything with birth, there will be death. So, based on that understanding, we can say that there is no place in this universe where we can be reborn and can live for eternity. No place in this universe where we can be reborn and live for eternity or forever happily. Because if you are reborn, if there's a birth, you will die. So, dependent origination. What does dependent origination is explaining? It explains that the existence of a being, or birth of a being, or rebirth of a being, okay, is due to natural, material, and mental phenomenon. Is due to physical and mental laws. Niyama. It's a law, it's a principle. Physical law, mental law. The birth of a being is due to natural laws, but not out of creation. We don't exist because someone has created us. We exist because it is simply a natural law. Our existence is. So that will cover the aspect of this 11th link of the 12 vectors of dependent origination. Now we come full cycle. We started with the past life, and then the present life. Buddha explained us in detail, and Buddha showed us how to get out of this cycle in the present life. But if we don't, how it can carry on to the next life. And we started with avijja picchaya sankhara. Due to ignorance, karma formation arises. The first link and the last link is jati picchaya jara marana. Due to rebirth, aging and death arises. The first link is of the past life, the last link is of the next life. In between, Buddha explained in detail the operations of these mental factors in our present life. So may all of you be able to understand this dependent origination, paticcasamuppada, clearly, and may you be able to apply to your life and to your practice effectively as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much.